Now I want to show you guys how Terraform Cloud works, right? It is basically the same Terraform, but right now we saw that we could either have our backend as local, or we can create an S3 bucket. We use an S3 bucket for state storage. We just store our Terraform state file in an S3. So S3 bucket is used for state storage. But when we talk about a remote backend is supported by Terraform Cloud. Terraform Cloud supports remote backend because once you sign up with Terraform Cloud, all the Terraform operations don't happen on your local environment. They happen in Terraform Cloud, in the cloud. So I'm gonna on Slack, I'm just gonna send some. I just posted in the general channel on Slack some general instructions that you guys can follow. Here it is. That you guys can follow to quickly create a Terraform account. So once you log into, or rather you go into that URL, it is going to bring you right here. Okay. So once you're right here, you can create an account, right? You can create an account if you have a corporate account, but you can just create an account. I can put the user. All right, username Wema. I can say, let me use Wema DevOps at Gmail. Let me just use a different person. But then you can acknowledge, you can create your account. Right? Once you create your account, we send a link to that. Please check your email. So I'll go into my email and just check that to make sure. So I can do that. Then once you've signed in, once you've confirmed your email, right? You've basically been signed into Terraform Cloud. So that is your profile. That's your email. You can update an avatar or whatever you want. Now after that, you'll need to create your organization. So if you go to organization, you can create an organization, right? So I can create my organization. I can just call it Wema, right? Wema DevOps, right? And that's the email. I can create the organization inside of your Terraform Cloud. So you have your profile, but you've also created your organization. Now Terraform Cloud uses 3 different approaches. You can either use version control, like GitHub, so that Terraform Cloud synchronizes with GitHub. Anytime you make a push, then Terraform Cloud is going to be triggered. Or we can use the CLI or the API. So the CLI is I can just run Terraform on my local environment. Once I do Terraform plan, then it is going to trigger Terraform Cloud. Right now we can start by looking at the event at the CLI. So you can create a workspace. Right? You can create a workspace. So workspace is basically a means that Terraform uses to isolate environments. So it's in the same organization that I have, but I can have a development workspace, I can have a production workspace, I can have a staging workspace, right? So you can create different workspaces for different projects. So I can choose to create a workspace. Now I can say my workspace is dev, right? The project, you can either leave it at default, or you can select what project you want to work on, right? You can put a description. Right now, I'll just leave it as default and dev. So I can create my dev workspace. Now, once you've created your dev workspace, now you need to go inside of your Terraform block where your code is. And Terraform block, we are going to update that Terraform configuration with the cloud, and this is our organization, and that is the workspace that we are deploying our resources into. So I can copy this Terraform code, and now I can go where? I can go to my code. I'll come back to you shortly. So I can go to where my EC2 instance is, right? Where my EC2 instance is, or let me create another. Let me see. Let me create another directory here. New directory. And let me just call it Terraform Cloud. So Terraform Cloud. In Terraform Cloud, let me copy. Okay, let me create a file first. Let me call it provider tf, provider.tf. Let me just press that if I lose it. Then let me go and copy my configuration, maybe EC2. I just need that EC2 copy. Let me go to my GC provider, and let me paste it here. Okay. I'm just going to use, I have to use the AMI copy. I can copy that and paste it in TC. And this is Amazon Linux. Okay. Okay, Alba, what's the question?
Is it important, or does it matter what organization we create when we're trying to work with each other, or we can pick whatever?
No, that's your organization. Right. Everybody, you're doing it by yourself. So that's your organization. Because it's a free account. So I think it supports up to 5 people. 5 people. If you want an organization for others to also use. But otherwise, right now, you're just trying it out to see how it actually works. So it is your organization, right? So whatever name you want to give it.
Hey, Professor, can we link it with our GitHub? I see the option of linking with Git.
Huh?
Can we link up with the GitHub account? Is that still?
Yes, we will do that. There are 3 ways in which you can link Terraform Cloud. We're just doing the first one, which is the CLI. And then we will do the using GitHub. Right. So let's say you have that. You have your resource, you have your Terraform Cloud here. And now what you need to do is you first need to log in. We first need to log in. So I'll cd into TC. Where is TC? EC2 custom. So cd TC. So there by ls. I have this. Then now with this, I have to do Terraform login. Right now, if I do Terraform login right now, it is going to tell me that it's going to create a token. Right? It is going to create a token. So I can say yes. But then once it does that, it is going to open up this. Right? I need to log in. So that for me, I have my email. I have it as Wema because I have another account. So that's why it's bringing these up. So Wema DevOps gmail.com password. Password. So once you log in there, it's going now to ask you to create a token to generate. So I can just click the description for Terraform login, expiration start date. I can just create this particular token. Then I copy the token. Once the token is copied. So this is what is going to authenticate you. So just paste it here. You won't see it, right? But once you paste it, then enter. So once you enter, it has now signed you into Terraform Cloud. Okay, because now it has signed you into Terraform Cloud, and I have my configuration. So right now, if I ls right there, right, I have that. Now you can run Terraform init. Once you run Terraform init, if you didn't have the workspace already created, but you pass it here, then it will automatically create that workspace for you. So I can run Terraform init. Once I initialize, it's initializing Terraform Cloud, downloading the providers. Terraform Cloud has been successfully initialized. So everything is happening in the cloud, right? Everything is happening in the cloud. Now, once you do that, now if I try to run Terraform plan, it is trying to prepare a plan. It is waiting to start, right? It is waiting to start. So if I go in my organizations, if I go in my sessions, profile, sign it as Wema, go to organization. If I go now to my Wema organization in the dev workspace, I have that particular project. So this is the dev workspace. If I go to runs, it was triggered, but it errored out, right? It errored out. Now there is a lock. This is the lock that is always put on any, whenever you do a Terraform run, there will be a lock. But right now this lock has been released. Now there's an error. That error is because we do not have any valid source of credentials. We do not have any credentials that we pass. That's why we couldn't get any. So for you to set your credentials, then go to your variables. Go to variables. Once you go to the variables, you can add a variable, right? When you add a variable, then you can add the key and the value. But this variable, it is an environmental variable. It's not a Terraform variable. A Terraform variable could be something that you're passing the instant type. I can pass it as a Terraform variable here. I want to pass an instant type. I can set it as a variable that will be available for my workspace. But now I want to set an environmental variable. And this variable, we want to mark it as sensitive because it is an access key. So I can set the first key will be AWS underscore access underscore key, right? Underscore ID. This will be the first variable. Okay. Now I can go here and either create a new SSH key, or I could go here and do cat tilde dot AWS tilde dot AWS. Then I want to cut credentials, right? So I can take this SSK by default, can copy it, and I can paste it here. So I'll mark that sensitive. So I can add another variable, sensitive. I can add another variable, and now this one I can add it as an AWS underscore secret. I can add it as a secret underscore access key. Okay. And again, this is an environmental variable. I can mark it as sensitive. So with that, I can come here and I can copy my secret access key because that's what it expects. Then I can paste this secret key here and I can add the variable. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you can now apply this variable. These are variable set. You've created a variable set. So you can apply this variable set to that particular instance. All variable sets have been applied to this workspace. Or there are none available. Variable sets are groupings of variables that you can apply to multiple workspaces. So we've applied these variables to our workspace and they're environmental variables. Okay. So once we have those, if we look at the new run, you can either trigger it, here again, or you can go now to your CLI. I can go to here runs, and now I can go back to my CLI where I have my what. So no valid credentials were found. So right here, I can do Terraform plan. So once I run plan here, it is going to trigger Terraform Cloud. Because I've logged in. Right? It's preparing the remote environment. Then it's waiting for this to start. It initializes the plugin. So everything is now happening in the Terraform Cloud in that particular environment. Now it says invalid AWS region, invalid provider configuration. So I haven't passed a provider, so I need a region saying invalid. So I need to pass my provider, AWS, and I can pass a region. And again, I'm just doing this, but you can always create modules. There's two. So this is my configuration now. So I can go back and trigger Terraform. So as I trigger it, it's going to initialize plugin. Then it's going to start planning. Right? These are plan that is triggered by Wema on the CLI. It refreshes that, and now it shows that this is what it's going to create. So it streams this back to you. And here the plan finished, right? The plan finished. So if you look at the plan, then again we see what it's going to create. It has streamed all this, and now this is what it's going to create for you, right? What it's going to create for you. So if you want to apply it, then again you can apply. The default version of Terraform that is running is this. You can select whatever version of Terraform you want to run for your code, right? For your code, you can add comments, you can retry run, you can trigger it from here, right? You can trigger it from here, right? So once you apply, if I do Terraform apply, and let's say I auto approve it. By auto approve it right now, it is going to start running. So if I go to my runs, so it is planning. Refresh that. And it tells me it plans to add that, but because I auto approved it, so now it is applying. It is applying it, and it shows you the current run. It has completed apply, and here it tells you it has completed your apply. Right, apply finish. Right, you can see what it created. It created that instance. So you can have more information here. So it's basically apply. So basically here we are triggering via the CLI. We logged into a Terraform Cloud, created an account. We logged in using a token, Terraform login. Once you log in, that with your whatever workspace. So I can have multiple projects, but they're isolated by workspaces. Right, they're isolated by workspace. So as a matter of fact, if you do Terraform workspace, right? If you do Terraform workspace, Terraform basically works with workspaces. Whenever we've been running Terraform, but we haven't done anything with workspace. But if you run the command Terraform workspace list, right? Right now I'm in the dev workspace. But if I switch to a different terminal right here, and I just run Terraform workspace list, right? You see, I'm always working in the default workspace. There's always a workspace that we're working on that is always default, but you can create a different workspace to isolate. So I can say Terraform workspace new, right? Then maybe I want a workspace for prod. So it will create and switch to the prod workspace. So if I do Terraform workspace list, right now I have two workspaces that I just created, but now I have default and prod, but the asterisk is on prod because I created and switched to it. Now, if I'm running my code on my local environment, I can now rerun the same code on the same terminal, but I'm deploying in different environment. Initially, we've just been using default workspace, but now that I've created prod, I can still rerun the code that I have, but now it is in a different workspace. And Terraform is going to look at that as this is an isolated environment. Okay? So that is the next thing. We've looked at how we can deploy Terraform in different environments. We've used multiple files, variable files. You can use that to deploy in different environments. Now you can use workspaces. You can create a dev workspace, staging workspace, a prod workspace, and you will use the same code just by selecting the workspace that you want to deploy into. If it's prod, then you deploy into the prod workspace. If it's dev, you can deploy the dev workspace. So that's how Terraform Cloud works. It works with workspaces because the backend, everything is happening, the backend is right in the cloud, is remote. It needs to isolate environments. So if it's an organization that has HR, it has finance, it has whatever, DevOps. So you have to isolate those environments within the organization using workspaces. Okay, so that's what we've seen, and we can trigger it on the CLI, or you can trigger it. You can trigger it also. You can also trigger Terraform using version control, right? Using version control. So I can connect my GitHub so that it will be triggered from GitHub. So you connect to version control and you will choose version control. What do you want to connect it to? I can choose GitHub, github.com, GitHub custom. I can just choose GitHub custom or GitHub. Once you do that, because of the email that you signed in with, your credentials, so it's going to install the GitHub app and hopefully pull your repositories